Hey, Luminary. I hope you're not afraid of Pluto. We're going to get a lot of Pluto action this week, this year, over the next couple of years, because we all need Pluto in our lives. Pluto's process to die, rebirth, and what is left from those ashes is that we rise into empowerment. So let's celebrate Pluto with this powerful episode. Welcome to Star-Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino-Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. Hello. It is Leslie Tagorda. And I mentioned earlier that I wanted to put together a special type of episode where I'll be looking at each of the planetary processes. In Star Powered Circle, I just finished delivering celestial cycles and the Written in the Stars 201. Where in Written in the Stars, I went deeper with astrology and reading our natal chart, with the jumping off from everything that we've learned in Written in the Stars, what I'm now calling 101, how to read your natal chart for work, and then diving in deeper, focusing in on the different planetary processes, deepening our understanding of aspects. And where in Written in the Stars 201, I deepened even more information in the houses, the aspects, and then, of course, planetary processes. Ooh, I just loved it so much. And then in celestial cycles, we are taking a look at all of the different planetary transits as the planets move around our natal zodiacs to give us the different annual cycles by the sun, monthly cycles by the moon, our reset cycles with all of our inner planet retrogrades, and then, of course, our big life cycles in our wheel of life with our outer planets. So today, because Pluto is moving into Aquarius on Thursday, I wanted to celebrate Pluto because I know Pluto gets a bad rap just like Saturn, but Pluto, there's nothing to be really afraid of when you choose and when you accept and when you move into the deep transformation that Pluto is here to do. And so, in this episode, I want to share actually a whole ton of things with you. I want to share what this Pluto in Aquarius ingress means for all of us here. And then I'm going to be sharing about the planetary process from just kind of a high level. This is the content that I shared in my Written in the Stars 201. And so, you're getting a preview of what's in my course curriculum. But of course, knowing that in the course curriculum, I'm offering extra exercises to apply this astrology learning into your life and, of course, your change making work and business. Then I want to talk about the Pluto transits and how Pluto transits as it crosses over our different planets, as it goes through the different houses in our natal chart, spark different parts of our life cycles of empowerment. So, this is a powerful, chock full episode. I hope you really enjoy it. And, I was looking at my ratings and reviews, and I realized I haven't asked for any favors lately. And so, if you like this episode and if you find these episodes valuable, please do a woman a favor and rate and review this podcast. Give it a 5 stars, give me a review, and share this with your business besties. Okay, so before we dive into everything about Pluto, I wanted to let you know that Star Powered Circle is open for Q2 of 2023, and the doors will be closing on Friday. I opened the doors for just a few days at the equinox because I wanted to invite people in who might only want to stay for a quarter. I know you've been hearing me talk a lot about Star Powered Circle, and I'm super excited. But now, the most important thing, things have shifted in the last couple of days, is that one of the things I've been working now for years on is getting my Astro brand registered trademark through. And I started this process back like maybe 3 years ago with an amazing trademark attorney. Now, the USPTO takes their sweet time in doing all of the filing and the research and all of this. But finally, on the day of the new moon, I got notice from my trademark attorney, the amazing Kim Bennett of Kim Bennett Law. Her team sent me a note saying that my registration was finally published and legitimate and everything is final. So that inspired me to really start talking about my Astrobrand certification, that the mentorship program is starting up in August. So I've been kind of dropping little hints here and there about the Astrobrand certification, but really what the Astrobrand certification is curriculum plus mentorship to teach you my version of astrology, that intersection of leadership, inner awakening, and of course, outer expression through our star powered brand. And so, if you are a branding professional, maybe you're a business coach, maybe you're a designer, maybe you're a copywriter, maybe you are a brand consultant, and you want to power up your practice with precise specificity instead of guessing the different kinds of archetypes you're supposed to work with, or instead of guessing the colors that may or may not work. Like, there are things in one's natal chart that point the way. So if you want to be able to guide people with precision based on their star powered design, if you want to charge a premium for your expertise in seeing a natal chart in a unique way, and if you want to be so tuned in to your own star powers that you find your own voice and language of astrology, then the Astrobrand certification is for you. Now, it's really important to be in Star Powered Circle because the curriculum lives in Star Powered Circle. There is required curriculum, 6 months of curriculum that you'll need to take in Star Powered Circle to be able to get to the mentorship portion of this certification. So the certification includes 6 months of curriculum and 6 months of mentorship. In the mentorship, we'll be doing group mentorship where we'll be doing practice charts and practice readings with each other. We'll be talking about ethics. We'll be talking about just how much power that you have and making sure that your knowledge is comprehensive. And then we'll have a one-on-one guidance from me to ensure that you are finding your own niche in astrology and ensuring that you have a fluent voice in the Astrobrand method. So if you are interested in this Astrobrand certification and can imagine yourself having an Astrobrand certification in your pocket on your website by this time next year, then this is your chance to get in right now to Star Powered Circle. So doors close on Friday, March 24th for this quarter. And this quarter, the certification curriculum is Star Powered Voice, where we'll be taking a look at one's unique voice, messaging, and storytelling style for their marketing and sales in according to their natal chart. So head on over to starpowered.com/circle and join in for us. Even if you're not on the certification track, it's an amazing community, a flesh full astro library with tons of applied exercise for you and your business, as well as just this most amazing community of people. All right, so let's dive in to everything about Pluto. Before I dive in, sharing all about Pluto's planetary processes and its transits over your life cycles, I just want to talk a little bit about Pluto entering Aquarius. Whew. So, just a couple of weeks ago, we had Saturn move into Pisces. And now this week on Thursday, the 23rd, Pluto moves into Aquarius for the first time in 225 years. Yes, that's right. The mighty dwarf planet leaves Capricorn, where he spent the last 15 years, remember back in 2008, breaking down systems of oppression, breaking down governmental systems, banking institutions, all of those things, breaking down, testing and stress testing all, and like really uncovering all of the weaknesses and holes in these systems. You can tell back in 2008, we had an amazing, at least in the United States, like the mortgage crisis and so many banking crises. And then now, as Pluto gets ready to leave Capricorn and move into Aquarius, do we recognize anything that's happening? Well, With with Pluto moving into Aquarius, Pluto, because of just the way that it tracks back and forth and moves so slowly in the zodiac, taking like 248 years to go around the entire zodiac, it's going to waver between the last degree of Capricorn, which is Capricorn of 29 degrees, and the first degree of Aquarius, an Aquarius of 0 degrees, from now until 2024. I believe, if my memory serves me right, I should have this right in front of me, that Pluto won't actually land fully into Aquarius until November 2024. So everything that's going on, this vacillation of breaking down and bringing awareness and bringing empowerment, will not kind of fully land until November of 2024, when Pluto will finally be able to do its thing in Aquarius. And so Pluto will be in Aquarius from November 2024 all the way until 2043, for the next 20 years. Whew. So, as Pluto moves into Aquarius, he's going to be doing testing his might and his empowerment in everything Aquarian. For me, I've been calling this Pluto in Aquarius to regenerate your revolution, because Aquarius is about the people. It's about change. It's about up leveling. It's about high tech and technology. It's about all of these things. So you can guess that there might be some changes in some technology. Hello, AI, or just seeing all of the holes and the secrets on the underbelly of all of these different Aquarian ideals. But ultimately, as Pluto does its process through Aquarius, it's going to allow us to create revolutions in ourselves through healing. It's going to allow us to do the emotional deep dives into our wonderful differences, so we no longer feel like ostracized for being our unique selves. Pluto's going to help us reform and change, like on a humanitarian level, for equity and for all. And of course, Pluto's going to help us empower individuality, equality, as well as community. So at this time, especially as Pluto is like wavering in and out of Aquarius, I want you to always, I'm going to remind you too, because Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for so long. But part of Pluto's process is to kill off, to die off, because we can't things with us. And so we can think of this as the dismantling, which is sometimes a Saturn idea, but dismantling at like a atomic level of Pluto. So we're going to get rid of and kill off the idea of keeping up with the status quo. We're going to kill off our need to hide and keep secrets and hide our deepest shames. We're going to kill off upholding systems that prevent humanitarian and community-based ideals. And we are going to kill off upholding systems of personal and political oppression. I hope that Pluto really does its process as it moves through Aquarius, really dismantling at an atomic level all of these things. And of course, as we'll learn during the transits, where Pluto is by house will show you in your life and your work where you need to tear things down to rebuild them up. Now, remember, Pluto's process is, and I'll be sharing much more deeply in just a little bit, Pluto's process is a complete process of death and rebirth, a phoenix rising from the ashes, a caterpillar and a chrysalis that emerges as a brilliant butterfly. Pluto is the flames purifying the phoenix to make it magnificent. Pluto is the mystery that happens in the chrysalis that utterly transforms to make it fly. Now, what exactly is happening in those flames, in the goo of that chrysalis? Does the creature going through that transformation feel pain? Does the creature resist the transformation, not knowing the outcome? Or does the creature trust in the process, trusting the empowerment it is to receive? Now, that is Pluto, right? If we resist this transformation, guess what? This is where the pain and the suffering come from. So, to know when we are in the transformational processes of Pluto, it means to accept and go with it. So, as Pluto finally moves into Aquarius, like I mentioned earlier, he's going to be wavering back and forth between the first degree of Aquarius of 0 degrees and the last degrees of Capricorn at 29 degrees, all the way through November 24th. Now, Pluto will transform the Aquarian shadows that need to come to light in our collective. And for you, whatever house Pluto transits is where he will do his deep dive transformation. Remember, this is not to be feared if you can trust in the empowerment that is the result. When Pluto was last in Aquarius from 1778 to 1798, it was a time of global revolution. The French Revolution, the American Civil War, just to name a few. Societies breaking free from the injustices of imperial and monarch rule to create more equity. As Pluto dips its toes into Aquarius on Thursday, it begins revealing truths that need to be transformed to build trust and power for social equity, the future, and humanity. Oh my gosh, I just been checking the news like just every minute to see if that yellow Cheeto is finally going to get hit what he deserves. And as Pluto waves back and forth over the next 19 months, Pluto still has more work to do in those last degrees of Capricorn to further break down those oppressive, institutionalized systems and colonial mindsets that keep you from your own inner authority. You can see we are at a precipice in humanity. It will take each and every one of us to intentionally choose deep transformation. I'm not one to make predictions as to what will happen over the next 20 years, but the energy is ripe for even more social change and resulting in empowerment. You get to choose where you will take your stand. Will you freeze in fear and go under, or will you face your fears and be empowered? That is ultimately what Pluto wants. Now, before we go into all of the teaching part, the curriculum of the planetary process of Pluto, as well as the transits of Pluto, I just want to send a special shout out to all of my luminaries that have any sun, moon, rising, or any of your angles, actually any natal energies at Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn of 29 degrees. I have a number of clients in my community that have like Aries of 29 degrees sun, or Capricorn 29 degrees moon, or Cancer 29 degrees sun. And oh my goodness, I'm sending out such a ginormous hug to you. Now, I know you're in the thick of things, right? Just feeling like life might be crumbling down, everything that you thought you knew, just kind of washing away. And I want you to understand that the planet that you have at 29 degrees of Pluto, 29 degrees of those cardinal signs right now are being activated by Pluto. And remember, Pluto's process is to death, rebirth, and empower. And so if you're at the beginning of this process where things feel like they're crumbling away and that you're grieving and you're grasping, please know that you're not supposed to lose anything that is not for you. What Pluto will be doing if you don't resist is it's transforming and empowering your natal planet. So if it's your sun, it's empowering your creativity. If it's your Venus, it's empowering your attraction and relationships. If it's your moon, it's empowering your intuition and your emotional security. So trust in Pluto that Pluto is doing its work and that this too will pass. By the time we come up to November of 2024, Pluto will be completely done with its empowerment process, and you will be amazed at the phoenix that you now are. All right, so let's get into the planetary process of Pluto. Enjoy this preview of Written in the Stars 201 Planetary Processes. As we move further out, we come to Pluto. And Pluto's primary role is to die and be reborn again. It is a dwarf planet, technically a dwarf planet by astrologers. And if you haven't already seen the YouTube video, We Don't Talk About Pluto, which is a parody of We Don't Talk About Bruno, that really fun film Encanto. It's such a cute parody. So I encourage encourage you to look up, we don't talk about Pluto. Pluto is a co-ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto is so far out there. It takes 248 years to orbit the sun. So it just happens to be that right around now, 248 years ago, we are celebrating the Pluto return of the United States here in 2022 and 2023. Pluto can spend an average of 20 years in a sign, but it's more like between 11 and 30 years, because when we are looking at the pictures of the solar system and different orbits, because Pluto is very elliptical, it definitely spends time in different signs, spends a longer amount of time in different signs than others. Now, Pluto was discovered in 1930. And you know what happened in 1930? The atomic bomb. The scientific breakthroughs of the 1930s brought great hope as well as great destruction. The original inventors of nuclear technology had no idea the destruction that it would be used for and the weapons that it would be used to create. But we can think of the power and the potency, that nuclear atomic potency that of this time, as being the consciousness that was brought into our world with the discovery of Pluto. And so astronomers of the time named this little tiny dwarf planet Pluto after the god of the underworld. You can think of other deities like Kali and Pele, who in their own mythologies and stories and cosmologies were both the destroyers as well as the creators. And so this is really important to understand, that what Pluto destroys is meant to die so that something bigger and better can be reborn. When I'm talking about Pluto to my clients, I use two different metaphors when I talk about Pluto. I often talk about Pluto as the little caterpillar that turns into a chrysalis, that then turns into a beautiful, magnificent butterfly. And I also use the phoenix that burns, the bird that burns into the ashes and then is reborn as a magical firebird. And so when we think about the first metaphor about that beautiful butterfly, when a caterpillar starts to, create its chrysalis, and it's in that chrysalis and just like totally disintegrating into goo, I imagine it's pretty intense. And I imagine a caterpillar must feel some sense of pain. So when we are going through a Pluto transit, whether you have your first Pluto square sometime in your midlife, activating some of your midlife awakenings, or if you are a lucky beholder of a Pluto sitting on top of one of your natal planets, when you're first going through that, it can indeed feel really, really intense, just like an atomic bomb. So, to understand the archetype and process of Pluto is to understand the complete unearthing and destruction and intensification. Pluto's processes rules intensification, distillation, purification, blowing things up, transforming, and the entire process of death to bring to much more glorious rebirth. Now, this distillation and purification, I just want to kind of put another metaphor on that, just to be able to really understand that process. So when we think of a distillation, we can think of things like essential oils, or we can think of things like liqueurs and things like that, where what ends up happening is where you put in a bunch of different ingredients, and there is some kind of like a chemical reaction that starts happening that alchemizes. That's another word for Pluto, alchemizes, and where it creates something else. With both essential oils and flower essences and different liqueurs, the distillation process actually is purifying the process. So we have just the highest essence, where all of the waste products are then eliminated. That's also one of the reasons why Pluto rules Scorpio, and this idea of the elimination process that allows us to become purified. Because Pluto is deals with intensification and power, when we think of Scorpio and its power with sex and sex appeal, Scorpio loves sex not for pleasure like Taurus or Leo, but to gain power. So, to bring inner awakening using Pluto is to bring awareness, acceptance, and healing to just the regeneration process that we all go through these processes. We get to go through these processes. It's part of our human experience to, I hate to say the word suffer, but to feel some of the pain and the shame and the taboos. Now, each one of us is going to have different levels of that depending on our natal chart. But Pluto really wants us to bring to light the shames and the taboos so that we can die and be reborn. Pluto wants us to let go and eliminate all the things that are not for us, wants us to detoxify, purify. It wants us to turn our phobias and our obsessions and our manipulations and our secrets into places of transparent, empowered, authentic vulnerability. Pluto is so powerful. In our work and our outer expression, of course, Pluto is here to transform. But the transformation, you can see that all of these planets are here to transform at some level and have different ways of transformation. And this is why I get really stuck when people are like, well, what do you mean by transformation? Because transformation, according to Pluto, is about deepest. Complete transformation, revealing all of the truths, revealing all the secrets by uncovering every single stone and not being afraid to like dive into the muddy depths to get to the truth. So Pluto's really great at deep analysis, at impact, at intensification, and at its highest, it is here to build its own power, to trust its own power, to share its own power, and to empower others. Whew, that's some powerful stuff we have with Pluto. Okay, so now that you understand what Pluto is supposed to do, I hope that you feel so much better about Pluto and are no longer scared of Pluto. Now that you know what Pluto is supposed to do, let's take a look at your natal chart, find out where Pluto is right in your natal chart, and then also look at where that 29 degrees of Pluto is to tell you what life cycle you are in to see if Pluto is activating one of your natal planets and what house it's transiting. All right, so let's take a look at Pluto transits, remembering that Pluto is the complete process of death and rebirth. Now, it's really easy to be afraid of Pluto, and I really want you to reframe that because Pluto, while sometimes his transits can feel really, 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 really uncomfortable, these are the transits that we all need on our evolutionary progress, and they are not meant to be scary. They are meant to put us on our highest path. And so to really be with a Pluto transit is to really understand the different processes of the 1, 2, 3 of the breakdown of the rebuilding up and then the rebirth into something much more glorious, much more empowered. So Pluto has that reputation of annihilating, of really bringing up the secrets and the shadows, about bringing up psychological taboos and bringing light to traumas so that we can distill, eliminate, purify, and empower. To really work with Pluto is to know that there is empowerment as a result of the ultimate process of rebirth. Now, we work with Pluto transits because they are super, super, super significant, mindfully breaking down and rebirthing with Pluto. Whew, Pluto. Um, Recently we had I had a client that is going through a Pluto Sun transit, and oh, she was just feeling in just the depths of grief, and she unfortunately had a really good friend that passed away that even triggered more grief in her, as what she was really coming into realization with her son and her creativity and her source, what was really being asked to be broken apart. She was really conflicted with working in her business with these old types of corporate clients, that she had left her corporate job because she didn't want to do that anymore, but she was building up her new business in exactly the same kind of job description as the one that she left. And so as we were kind of taking apart just like this deepest parts of grief and tearing down and breakdown, just with the culmination of her friend passing and the grieving of, putting away and breaking down all these things that she didn't want to take with her on her next path, we really came pretty quickly to this place of letting go and dissolving and breaking down and releasing all these things that she just didn't want to take with her. And there was this huge lightness. And as soon as she made that decision, that choice, because of the Pluto Sun opposition that she had, all of a sudden, as soon as she committed to that choice, oppositions always ask us to choose, she lightened up and everything was able to pour through her with ease, without effort. All the things that she thought she was procrastinating on, she still had that sense of grief, but she understood now that this grief was to enable her to process letting go of that life that she had, that she wasn't going to take with her on this next phase of creation. It was so beautiful to witness and to support. And so ultimately, Pluto is asking us always, as it transits our natal chart, as it transits one of our natal planets, Pluto asks, what needs to die so that it can be rebirthed again? What needs to break down that I no longer need? What do I need to shed light to that I've been hiding from myself from shame or taboo? What do I need to fully eliminate and let go? And if I don't mindfully eliminate and let go of things, what in my life is forcing me to let these things go because I've been resisting? And so Pluto has maybe not so subtle of a way of doing these things, but remember, Pluto is asking us these things to let go and to die, because from those ashes, we create power. We create power that we can then build on so that we can share and empower others. Pluto is pure power. And so, because Pluto takes 240 something years to go around the chart, we are not going to have too many Pluto transits. Thank you. But when we do, they're going to last a long time. And the most important Pluto life cycle is one that we'll get right between 36 and 61. And you're like, what? 36 and 61? Well, that's just because Pluto has a very elliptical, meaning it's not a circle, it's more like an oval as it revolves around the sun. So a Pluto square, the first Pluto square, can happen as early as 36 and it can happen as late as 61, depending on your year of birth. And there's tables that you can look that up online so that you can look at when you will have your first square of Pluto. But because Pluto square is asking you to catalyze, right? That first square is an outward experience catalyzing you to make a change. This Pluto square is having a life experience that triggers you to kill off a part of your being so that another one can emerge. Remember, the Pluto, you can think of it as a caterpillar turning into a chrysalis, turning into a butterfly, or you can think of that bird that gets set on fire, that turns into ashes, that then rises as a phoenix. And you see there's that 1, 2, 3 part. There's always something that happens, like there's an initial being, it gets totally broken down, purified, and distilled, and it looks like just a pile of ashes, but then something else starts to emerge. That is the power of Pluto that I want you to hold on to. And so Pluto square Pluto takes about 2 years to happen. Usually there is a 3 to 5 exact passes. Again, this is one of those transits that you are really grateful that it takes a long time. The shorter this transit happens, usually the more acute that feeling of that Plutonian process will happen. Okay, so let's take a look as Pluto transits the houses as it goes around your natal chart, knowing that Pluto will not go through all of the houses in your natal chart because no one here on this earth is going to live to 224 years old. So Barbara Hand says, as Pluto transit your houses, it signifies the areas of your life that are due for radical transformation. In the area ruled by that transited house, structures in your life have been built up to the point that is no longer possible to patch up whatever is wrong. It is time for a full-scale reconstruction, preceded, if necessary, by a destruction of the old change resistance patterns. At the time I'm recording this, Pluto is just sitting on those last degrees of Capricorn, structures, governments, institutions, and it's really bringing up all of the secrets of where all of those house of cards things have been built. And you can see just like at 2008 when Pluto moved into Capricorn, how we had that mortgage and banking crisis. Well, as Pluto leaves Capricorn, we're showing up in full light, where now we have the Silicon Valley Bank and more banking crises on the way because Pluto is not yet done restructuring capitalism. Oh, yay. So Pluto moves super slowly, and it can take up to 20 years to transit a house in your natal chart, with the most sensitive times of when Pluto enters and exits the houses, just like how on a mundane level, when Pluto enters and exits a sign. Knowing while Pluto is in a house, it is doing its transformational work in that area of life for the better. Now, remember, it can feel hard and difficult, like everything is breaking down, but also remember that you cannot lose what is truly yours. The more you hang on and resist to what is breaking down, the harder Pluto will feel, the more you will suffer. But notice that the resurrection and empowerment that you are left with when it ends. So now, knowing that you will not have all of your houses transited by Pluto, take a look at where Pluto is currently in your natal chart. As Pluto crosses your first house, or if Pluto crosses your first house and crosses over your ascendant, this is huge, where you are transforming and empowering yourself, your leadership, your identity, and your initiative, bringing light to the power of you. If Pluto gets to transit your second house, this is your chance to transform and empower your personal finances, your worthiness, your values, bringing light to your worthiness and values. If Pluto gets to transit your third house, you're here to transform and empower your mindset, your inner dialogue, and your voice, bringing light to your messages so that you can express and communicate your needs. If Pluto is in your fourth house and crossing your IC, this is your chance to transform and empower your emotional safety, your family dynamics, and bringing light to intergenerational healing. Now, anytime we have Pluto transiting one of our angles, it is massively significant because more than likely we might have one or two, maybe three of these passings in our lives, shaking up the entire structure. So consider if you have Pluto crossing your ascendant, your midheaven, your descendant, or your IC, know that this is a massively transformational, significant time of your life. When Pluto crosses over the fifth house, Pluto is here to transform and empower your relationship to your inner child, play, pleasure, and creativity, bringing light to what you need to heal in your inner child. Pluto in the sixth house, as it transits the sixth house, is bringing light to where it needs to transform and empower your daily practices and routines, bringing light to how you empower your wellness and your wholeness. As Pluto crosses over the descendant into the seventh house, if you get to experience one of these, again, shaking up the whole structure of your being, transforming and empowering your relationships and understanding of your power in relationships, partnerships, and collaborations, bringing light to how you give away your power to others, or maybe even domineer your power over others. Pluto in the eighth house. Well, Pluto just loves being in the eighth house. Like, this is its home as the ruler of Scorpio, and Scorpio rules the eighth house. And so Pluto here does its transformation and empowering your ability to transform a full death and life rebirth process, a full cycle, figuratively and literally, bringing to light your relationship to life and how death impacts you. Now, because the eighth house is also a place of joint finances, because if you're having a Pluto in the eighth house transit, you're likely not having a Pluto in the second house transit. So you can think of this Pluto in the eighth house transit also as similar to a second house transit, focusing in on how your financial security and livelihood with yourself as well as in relationship. Pluto in the ninth house, this transforms and empowers your beliefs, your purpose, your vision, and even your own morality, bringing light to what you can truly envision and your wisdom. If you get to have a Pluto crossing over your midheaven, again, shaking up the whole structure of your natal chart, going into your 10th house, this transforms and empowers your ability to achieve expertise and inner authority, bringing light to how you will leave your mark on this world and empower this world. Pluto in the 11th house, if Pluto gets to transit your 11th house, this transforms and empowers your hopes for the future, your social impact, and your soul communities, bringing light to how you will contribute to society through empowerment. Pluto in the 12th house, the last of the Pluto cycle. Not everybody will get a Pluto in the 12th house, but this is where we transform and empower your most innermost spiritual, emotional self, bringing to light all the things that you are too deeply hidden that hold you back from being you before you are reborn again. Pluto in the 12th house, you can also likely have a lot of past life information coming through, as well as past life unfinished business, so that you can re-empower yourself. So again, remember, because Pluto takes so long, Pluto will likely not go through, it won't go through all of those 12 houses. So you can always look to the house opposite if you need support and transformation from where Pluto is currently. If you get Pluto transiting one of your natal planets, Robert Hahn says, the energies of the planet that Pluto is transiting becomes a source of change and transformation in your life. You may get involved in serious power struggles with others about changes in those areas of your life associated with that planet. Again, you may, okay? So Pluto aspecting a planet, it can take about 3 years with maybe 3 to 5 exact pings or hits. Trust that you are transforming and finding your power when a Pluto transits to a natal planet happen. Just like that story that I shared with you earlier about my client who had Pluto exactly opposite of her natal sun. And recently I had a Pluto sitting on my Venus for a couple of years, and that was super, super exciting. And even though I was married at the time, and I thought at the very beginning of that Pluto Venus aspect that I definitely wanted a divorce, what ended up changing was that I changed my power dynamic in the relationship and we were able to survive. But it took a lot of self-transformation and really claiming my power to be able to have success in that relationship. And so all of it, remember, it's for our highest good. The aspect between Pluto and the other planet will let you know the type of energetic transformation that is happening. So feel free to change the keywords that I'm about to share with you that speak to you the most, but this can serve as a template. So if Pluto is aspecting your sun, just like how I shared with my client example, power and creativity equals genius, your natural genius. Pluto on the moon is power and security, which equals emotional empowerment. Pluto and Mercury, Pluto plus expression equals command through your voice. Pluto and Venus, power and connection equals magnetism. Pluto and Mars, power and activation, potency. Pluto and Jupiter, power and expansion, ideology. Pluto and Saturn, power and focus, restructuring. Pluto and Uranus, power and change, revolution. Pluto and Neptune, power and inspiration equals transmutation. Now, Pluto and Pluto, we're never going to have a Pluto return. And right after you're born, you might have a Pluto aspecting Pluto, but you're so young at that point. I'm not going to even consider it here. All right, my friends, that was a lot of content. So I hope you get an idea of how all of these processes feel. So in the exercises that I'm about to share, we're going to dive into how you can apply and feel this in your own chart. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for listening to this more educational the first in the series of my planetary processes for these different podcasts. I hope that you learned something new and that you got to get a sample of my teachings in my curriculum. Of course, this is only one part of my curriculum. For those students in my curriculum, of course, they get applied astrology exercises so that they can feel into what this work means for them and then express it in their life and work. It's such powerful work. So I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Pluto. Let me know what you think. And if you're interested in Star Powered Circle or the upcoming Astro Brown certification, this is your chance. Don't sign up later because the doors will be closed after Friday, March 24th. Head on over to starpowered.com/cycle and join the fun. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.